Welcome to Relationship Real Talk, Live the Lives podcast. For over 20 years, we've been dedicated to strengthening marriages and families through relationship education. Our core goals are to reduce the Florida divorce rate by 50% by 2029, to increase the marriage rate, and reduce teen pregnancy and out-of-wedlock births. For more information about us, you can visit us at livethelife.org.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Relationship Real Talk. I am Alphonso.
I am Ashley.
And today's topic is relationship PTSD. So just to give a quick background of why this is today's topic, this month is National PTSD Awareness Month. And since Live the Life, we work with the military, I wanted to see how is that relatable to actual relationships and see if that's a thing. And come to Google, I ended up finding out it's a real thing, and it's in the early stages. But relationship stress, not even disorders. What is it? Post-traumatic relationship stress. Yes, that's the full name. Relationship PTSD. So, Ashley.
Well, yeah, and something that was interesting while I was reading these articles, one of the things, like you were saying, post-traumatic stress disorder, that's something that pretty much everyone's heard of, PTSD. But these articles kind of brought up something new. It's called post-traumatic relationship syndrome, PTRS. So I thought that was pretty interesting that now people are realizing that it's not just like, going off to war that creates a PTSD situation, but actually there are things in relationships that can cause so much trauma that a lot of therapists are seeing this post-traumatic relationship syndrome. So I thought that was really interesting. And I also think it's probably something that a lot of people think is normal, that they're going through their relationships and they're like, oh, this is just relationships. And I think we talked about on another podcast too, how we kind of just throw the word toxic around and
left and right, like it's nothing.
Yeah, and we just we lose the realness and the seriousness of things that actually are toxic. So that, if you are actually experiencing some of these things, you might just be like, oh, I'm being dramatic, like this is just normal relationship stuff, when in all actuality, it actually is a super serious thing, and it's something that a lot of people are dealing with.
And what's funny, not to cut you off,
no, you're good.
We're in a time where everybody is very, very aware of the issues, and just piggybacking off of what you were saying about just saying toxic this and toxic that. We know what's toxic behavior, but it's like we don't act on it, and that's why this just relationship PTSD was just so interesting, because I feel like it's a popular thing to tweet or to post. Oh, I don't trust guys because this, or I can't deal with the girl but it's like we're venting our issues, but we don't recognize it. And I just feel like this is just holding up a mirror finally, like, hey, this is not okay.
Yeah, and I mean, also, like, our culture has done an interesting job of dealing with this toxicness. Like you were saying, like, we'll see a meme that talks about, like, can't trust men because everyone I've ever been with was cheated on me, and we're always laughing. And like, I even follow like an account, it's like about single people, and it's kind of like making fun and all these like memes about being single, and I laugh at them, but I'm like, okay, but these are probably things that people are actually experiencing, and we're made to laugh at them instead of being like, oh my gosh, this is really unacceptable, and really just kind of making red flags into this hilarious opportunity to get famous on Instagram and TikTok, and
using humor to try to get some clout points.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to clarify, to give not even a true definition, but what actually causes PTRS. It says the direct cause of post-traumatic relationship stress is relationship abuse or experiencing one or more of the following in an intimate relationship: physical abuse, including direct physical harm or threats or physical harm; sex abuse, including rape, other sexual assault, or sexual coercion; emotional abuse, including gaslighting, manipulation, or control. More specifically, you can consider PTRS a response to the lingering fear of abuse and its potential for future abuse. That's, and even, I don't know, I just can't get over the fact that I really feel like it's more common than what we think. I just see a scroll on social media and people are talking about, oh, can't deal with guys because of this situation. And you take that on to the next person. And even this article, I'll reference it in a second, and we'll have a link to all of these in the description as well. But it said that PTRS can be more so having these traumatic events in the forefront of your brain, your short-term memory. So when you meet somebody and you run into something that may trigger it, you're immediately fight or flight. And it you're either going to negatively have interaction with that person, or you're going to go back into your little cave and in your hole and that depression bubble that we all get into sometimes. So I just felt it's just interesting. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. And I was going to say too, like, it took me a long time to actually like acknowledge the fact that I was abused in my last relationship, but like, even me, who I'm like, oh, I'm super, like, I'm dealing with my stuff, and I'm a very mentally sound human being, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. Like, literally last month, like, my fiance and I, like, I had a huge trauma response to something that was so stupid. And literally, it was about video games. Like, my ex used to just play video games in a room. He would close it, lock the door, and I would not see him for the rest of the night. He would sleep in that room. He would stay away from me. Like, and that happened to me almost nightly. Like, he would just stay away from me, close the door, lock the door. I wasn't allowed in. And so Cameron, like, just one night, he just like, hey, would you mind if I, like, actually maybe it wasn't because he didn't ask or something. And he was like, oh, I decided to go home and I'm playing video games. And I, like, completely shut down. And I was like, oh, he hates me. Like, and I'm, like, literally going through this whole thing, like, having a whole traumatic response to this. And he was like, what's going on? And I'm like, right. And I'm just like, and even myself in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's different. He's not the same person. And like, but I cannot stop my brain from being like, Ashley, like, run away. Like, it's the same thing. Like, get out of it. And I'm just like, oh, like, thinking I've already dealt with all this stuff, but like, yeah, you have no idea when it's just gonna come back and hit you, because like in that previous relationship, I was so unsafe. I was not secure. I was like in this awful traumatic experience. That was my daily life. And then even though I haven't been in that in like 8 years, my brain still immediately goes back to how I felt.
So not to go too in depth with it, since you had that response, do you think that's something you haven't really healed from completely?
Well, and that's a thing too. It's like things I didn't even know I needed to heal from. You know, because like if he asks, he's like, hey, is that okay? And I give permission, I don't have any problem. But it was because it was like, like in my mind, I was like, he's being secretive. He's closing the door. Like, you know, like not even like that we were together, but it was like that whole, like, it's a secret. You don't know about it. And this is who he's going to start becoming. And like my brain just kind of going down this rabbit hole. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even know I needed to deal with video games. Like that wasn't even a thing that I knew that I had to deal with. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I obviously have triggered responses to that situation, so I need to figure that out.
Then even with me, just reading through the different articles, preparing just for this topic, it just had me thinking about, okay, do I have anything that I haven't healed from? And not to put it in that category, but I am quick to solve issues. We can't. If I feel there's an issue, there's no lingering. I'm quick to we gotta talk about it quickly, and just from trust issues from past relationships and stuff like that. Just thinking back, because one of the 7 steps to heal from it is to sit and really think. Yeah. And that was something I've never done. Yeah. And maybe I could use some time to think, because I am quick, literally. I don't like, you can ask McCoy, I don't like lingering issues. And it's not like I press and it's like we're in this big argument, but it's like, okay, well, we're gonna calmly not move on until until the situation is because
I need to.
I'm not feeling the energy. So just think about my own. That was just interesting, just to see.
Yeah, and I did want to say, so I've also realized one of the things you talked about was a form of emotional manipulation is gaslighting. And I think that term is now getting thrown around too loosely. I literally just had to explain the difference between gaslighting and just literally disagreement. So I did want to just kind of define what gaslighting is, because I am nervous that it is getting thrown around. So the situation was, I had someone that is a friend, and they remembered a situation that we had gone through, and they remembered it differently than me. And so as I was giving my perspective, they're like, well, you're gaslighting me. And I was like, oh, no, that's not gaslighting. Gaslighting is like me trying to convince you, Alphonso, as, you know, an African American, that you are white. Something that I know is false. I'm like, Alphonso, like, are you colorblind? Like, you're literally, like, me knowing something and trying to convince you of something else. That's gaslighting. It's not like, oh, you know, yesterday when we got lunch and you ordered an Italian sandwich, you're like, wait, no, I ordered a ham sandwich. That's just us misremembering something. That's not gaslighting. That is a disagreement.
Because I'm so glad you brought this up, because what's the difference between gaslighting and logic and reality of the situation? I feel like those lines get blurred. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, everybody has a different perspective, and we do the perspective exercises in our Adventures in Marriage class, and it's incredible to see what everyone thinks is real in a situation, but they don't have all the pieces. So as me, my history from yesterday, even if I walked alongside of you the whole day, I'm going to remember it completely different than you. So my logic, my facts from yesterday are not going to align with your logic and facts from yesterday. They're going to be similar. They're going to have resemblances, but they're like, you might have noticed, you know, the man playing saxophone up around the lake we walked around because your uncle played saxophone. You were really close to your uncle. Well, I saw a duck, and I'm freaking out because I hate ducks, and I'm afraid of ducks, right? So I completely missed the saxophone man. Like, oh, do you love that? Do you remember that song yesterday? I'm like, there was no song.
No song, get up.
I'm not gaslighting you. I literally didn't hear it because I was afraid for my life because there was a duck. You know what I mean? So those are the differences. Gaslighting would be, you know, again, like, it's something that I know to be true, you know to be true, but I am actively trying to convince you it's not true. Like, I don't know if anybody has, like, I'm gonna literally spoil a book. So this is a book spoiler right now. I'm really sorry. Girl on the Train. The girl on the train, she's being gaslit by her husband. She gets so drunk, and she'll wake up, she'll have blacked out from being drunk, and her husband will tell her she did terrible things. Make her think she's a terrible human being.
Oh, wow.
When that never happened, it was actually him. Like, there's like a hole in the wall. He's like, look what you did. You did that. When he actually like swung something, missed her head, hit the wall. You know what I mean? That's gaslighting. Knowing something is true, convincing someone else that they're crazy, they don't know what's happening. That's the manipulation in it, not misremembering or having a different perspective.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad you brought it. Because like I said, I feel like people get so caught up in the, oh, what I saw and what I did, that has to happen. And it's like, and I'm so glad you brought up the example with the saxophone and the duck, because if you caught up with one thing, so your whole left side could be blocked off because on your right, you're focusing on this duck.
And I tell you, I would be.
Exactly. That's what makes it was even funnier. One thing I also wanted to mention and just notify the type of responses to relationship PTSD, just in case you are curious, for those listeners out there. So you have the feeling of anxiety, intrusive thoughts, nightmares, flashbacks, trouble concentrating, and avoidance behavior, I think it said. Yeah, avoidance behavior. So those, I definitely just wanted to point those out if you are wondering, thinking back, am I feeling this way? Do I respond to things of this nature? So.
Well, and I like that you said that too, because I also highlighted some of the things, because some of the the things I saw in this that were things you might be experiencing after you've experienced trauma in a relationship. It says like you believe you don't deserve a healthy relationship. You may feel unconsciously drawn to unhealthy relationships. Might have a hard time trusting loved ones or new romantic partners. Feeling anxious and insecure in relationships. And then a couple other things, like we said, we're going to link these articles. But those are very common feelings that I think a lot of people have. And those are trauma responses. So if you have found yourself like, oh my gosh, like I really don't think I deserve love, or I really don't believe I can trust anyone, that's where you might want to take that step back and be like, okay, why do I feel this way? What we talk about in our Real Essentials True North program curriculum is everybody deserves to be loved.
Yeah.
Not because of anything that you've done. As you are right now, you are worthy of love. Like, you, as a human being, you deserve love. And so if you have come to the point where you're just like, I am unlovable, it's probably not because you're a psychopath, crazy serial killer. It's probably because someone has done something to you to make you feel like, wow, I'm unworthy. And that's trauma. And that's something that, I mean, no one should have to feel, because that's not true.
So in your friend group, or what you see nowadays, what do you think is a common trauma response that you see?
I think a big one for a lot of people, and especially people that, I mean, I have a lot of Christian friends, I have a lot of non-Christian friends, and I just think like the biggest one, and I don't want to say it's like a lie, but it's like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy. And even in Christian circles, like, you know, I just like really need to work on myself, or like, you know, like God's not going to bring me someone until I'm ready. And I don't know how I feel about that, because if that means that God is limited to who you are, which was never the case. Ever. And so where I do believe, yes, I want you to be at your healthiest so you can be in a healthy relationship, I don't think that, you know, God is withholding something from you because of who you are. So that one kind of gets me a little bit. And then being really distrustful and just really thinking like, oh, you know, I'm never going to find a guy because, like, you know, I can't let people in. And it's like, okay, again, like, let's like kind of go back. And I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, I love you. Here's my social security number. Day one, here we go. Like, no, obviously, but like it feels like the balances are just so weighed down by the insecurity. Mm-hmm. And I would just love for that to come back into relational balance with, I'm going to both guard my heart and be open to what doors are in front of me. Does that make sense? Because like I'm just like, okay, people, like, we cannot live in an extremism.
No, that makes all the sense. I would say like a common one that I would hear just from a guy's perspective is the trust one, but what's the word? But just taking the emotions out of it. What's the word? It's a word for it. Is it disassociating? Yes. Yeah. If I'm wrong, please don't kill me in the comments, please. But yes, just taking the feelings and emotions out of just dating in general. And it's like, why are you doing that? That's one. That's the purpose, to, you know, catch feelings for somebody. Mm-hmm. But even leaning more towards the taking feelings out, that's when, okay, just sleeping around, that's when all this stuff comes in, feeling like, oh, I can do this and it's not an issue. Oh, well, if I can't get this from here, I can just get it this way because she's probably doing the same thing. Like, it's like just not having that level of trust. I feel like that's huge. Mm-hmm. And it just gets plastered over social media. And I feel like it gets celebrated.
Oh, absolutely.
Too. I just searched Twitter one day and just bored. Just relationships. And just you'll just see all types of opinions. Like, people are assuming cheating is okay because they think the other person is doing it already. Yeah. And people are, oh yeah, I feel this, or retweeting it. It's like, yeah, if you feel like you can hurt people, the next person feel like it's just going to continue cycle of hurting people. So when is the solution going to come about? We're just going to keep hurting just left and right.
Exactly. And I can't, like, even like someone that I just talked to recently was talking about, oh, I think marriage is going to become a thing of the past because people are just like so over serious relationships and da 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 da. I'm like, oh, you could not be more wrong, actually. Like, people in marriages, like, I wish you could see the statistics actually of married people, because everything that you see now on social media and movies and TV and music talks about, like, oh, you live the single life and it's like amazing and da, 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 da. But it's like, science tells us, like, we were created for relationship, and the most sacred, committed, secure form of relationship is marriage. And I'm not even being like spiritual or moral about that. That is a scientifically proven fact that people cannot refute. Like, you cannot go up to a learned science person and say, oh, marriage is ridiculous, it doesn't make any sense. No, they will literally laugh at you, because it has been proven time and time and time and time and time and time again. And again, I want to make the stipulation, a healthy marriage, because obviously I've been in a healthy marriage that was not a safe place. But for the majority of the people that are in marriage, they are happier, healthier, more successful. They have a higher rate of satisfaction in their relationships, a higher rate of security. And even to your point of like, oh, just sleeping around, I just started watching Love Island. I don't know if I'm proud of that fact yet. I'm only 3 episodes in. But one of the guys, they do this like secrets thing. And one of the guys, his secret was that he slept with over 100 people.
Boy, actually, I've heard way bigger numbers.
I know, but like my jaw is dropping.
I'm telling you, it's crazy out here.
Dropping. And I'm not like, and not because I'm like, oh, sleut, whatever. Mm-hmm. No, not my thing. I'm like, you are literally ruining your brain for what it was created for. Your brain was created to connect with someone on a deep and intimate and chemical level, and you are erasing the ability to do that. Not that you can get it back. I'll say it once, I'll say it a million times. I love the brain. It's elastic. It can relearn, but you're literally training your brain to do the opposite of what it was designed to do. Yeah. Like, whoa. I shook.
And that's only going to make it harder for you, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yes, it can come back, but why create a difficult path?
Yeah.
So what I definitely wanted to touch on, the 7 steps to healing.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. So one of the articles, the 7... Oh, almost read the wrong title for it. But it was just 7 signs to heal if you feel like you have relationship PTSD. And just to talk about some of them. Well, actually, we might as well go through all of them. Yeah. So we have number 1, take time to be introspective. So Ashley, how did you feel about that when you were reading?
Well, and I think it was like what you were saying is like actually taking time to think about, what are my triggers? First of all, it's uncomfortable. I don't want to think about my triggers. I'm actively trying not to, be triggered. Mm-hmm. But actually going into a quiet, safe space. And I think it even talks about being able to journal or do art and just doing something that you'll be able to express yourself in while also dealing with what you've been through. And so that's definitely a hard one for me. I usually deal with triggers as I get triggered. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which is the absolute worst way. Most of us. Right, absolute worst way. But no, I definitely, I'm not good at making time to be introspective. And I think that's something that's just a sign of a person who's busy and doesn't want to. It's not like I can't wake up 15 minutes earlier and journal and think about, what happened to me yesterday? What do I want to be different today? What were some things that brought up some feelings in me? And like having those thoughts, those take time and those take effort and those take being vulnerable even with yourself, which I don't think a lot of us like doing, especially myself. So yeah. Yeah,
very uncomfortable. I'm guilty of that as well. So even me reading that, it's because I recently started making that time to wake up early, journal, and actually think. And it does go a long way. And even when you're thinking about this stuff, I promise you, it's so uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable, but you need to think about it. If you don't think about it, how are you going to even step over that limitation? So that's why even like the second step to get stronger where you're weak, you have to realize what's wrong. It's like that, holding that mirror up to yourself, like, okay, I know this is the issue. I know this is what I don't like. These things bother me. I know that they bother me. Why do they bother me? A, B, C, and D. Take that deep breath and then just move forward about it, for sure. And then number 3, you have hone your picking skills.
Oh man, this one was very interesting to me, and I think I don't like pat myself on the back, but because obviously I had terrible picking skills in the beginning, but that was actually one of the biggest things that I was like, okay, I'm definitely not getting into that, and I think I probably swing too extreme in the other way. I always say, like, I had a lot of first dates in my single period and 0 second dates. Absolutely 0 until I met Cameron.
So wait, hold on, we gotta take a deep I need one funny experience. I need it.
Oh, Alphonso.
I need it.
I have to tell Shore, I have so many bad ones.
I need one. I need it.
Well, we can do bad first dates on another podcast, but one of them that was like less extreme and shorter of a story was I was working in a youth group, and there was a guy who was like another youth leader, and I thought he was really cute, and he was like, oh, let's go get dinner, and it was never clarified, like, are we going on a date or hang out as friends? First of all, red flag, what? Ask me out. So second of all, we went to like a Hungry Howie's, another red flag, but I do love Hungry Howie's, but like
going to just
like, or whatever it was. So then we sit down, and I kid you not, for the 90 minutes we sat outside the Hungry Howie's, he talked about himself. Not a single question was directed at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I will never do this again. Absolutely not. I can't live my life like this. Yeah, no.
I can't even imagine talking about myself for that long. Just for somebody who doesn't talk about what?
And literally, it was like the dumbest stuff too. He was like, yeah, I'm a baseball player at TCC. I'm like, that is not a brag. And then he was like, yeah, and I'm like a 5th year senior. I'm like, and it's just like all these things he was like trying to brag about, and I was like,
it's the face. I'm using this as the preview clip.
No, but yeah, so that was one of my bad date experiences,
but I mean, you do have to go through that.
Yeah, sorry. But back to honing your picking skills. No, yeah, I think it is really important to see red flags and to understand if you are in a cycle of picking someone bad, like, okay, what are those qualities that you're looking at? Why are you thinking they're acceptable? And then what do you actually want? Like, what are your actually must-haves and deal breakers? And that's something we go over in the singles class that I do. Before you even get in a relationship, what are things that you actually don't want to deal with? Yep. And what are things that you actually do want? Not just like, oh, he's cute, he came along, he likes me, let's do this. Like, no, let's find out some stuff about this person first. Yeah.
And then the fourth one, take a deep dive into your childhood. The reason why this one stood out, because we kind of did that at the Return to Glory retreat. Just sitting down and thinking, okay, childhood experiences, what did you go through? And having that time, you'll be surprised. A lot of the bad habits or just annoying traits that I feel are annoying that I have stemmed from things in my childhood. Just having that time to think back, that could shape your whole trajectory in your thinking. So I thought that was very cool to notice. And then number 5, forgive yourself. That's important. And I feel like we shouldn't have to go in, but you forgive yourself. Yeah. There's nothing is wrong. It's life.
Yeah.
Life happens.
Yeah.
You learn, you move on. The moment you try to hang on to it, you're just going to bring negative energy towards you because you're asking for it.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself and take the steps forward.
Yeah. And I think that also going to number 6, letting go of anger towards your ex, I think that like the balance between forgiving yourself and releasing anger. And I love the first line here. It says, it does not say you should forgive your ex. And like when I was going through my divorce, I remember something that my therapist said was, forgiving him does not mean you ever have to trust him again. Letting go of that anger doesn't mean you're allowing trust to come back into play. And so I had to learn to let that go, and also realize like I didn't need to forgive him necessarily. I just had to let go of the anger I had towards him, and that freed me up to allow him to not make me angry every time I thought about him. But also I didn't have to ever trust him again, which was kind of big for me, because I was like, I'm a very like, I'm not gonna say like, oh, goody goody, but it was freeing to know that I could let go of anger and negative feelings towards someone, and also not have to be like, okay, we can be friends again.
Yeah.
I could be like, we don't ever have to see each other again. I will never trust you again. And that's okay, because you broke my trust, and I've let go of the hurt that's associated with that, but I don't have to ever allow you to hurt me again.
Yeah, that's for the fellas out there, that's definitely a big one. You can you can move on, not have no ill feelings in your heart towards the person. I feel like every guy has that one that did it, that wanted to turn you cold, and that just pierced the heart. But once you forgive and move on, everything is going to be good from there. And then the last step, empower yourself.
Yeah.
So develop is just knowing those good boundaries, developing those good boundaries, and saying them out loud, for one. That's a big one. I wanted to say. The more that you say it out loud, you're empowering you and your space. So.
Well, and the more you say it out loud and in front of people, like Alphonso, if you're like, oh, Ashley, like, I really want to date a Christian girl who, you know, this, and the more you say it in front of people that you respect and surround yourself and can hold you accountable, the more they're going to hold you accountable. Like, do you remember when you said you wanted a girl who liked hiking and who liked, you know, going outdoors? And it kind of seems like all she wants to do is watch movies. Is that what you want? Because I remember you saying that's not what you wanted, you know? So, like, saying it out loud to yourself and then to other people that you trust to hold you accountable.
And that's good. But saying it in front of other people you trust, it's accountability factor that comes with it, because you can slip into those bad habits. And if you hear that one person say, just so y'all been inside for the majority of the time, you sure you're okay? It's that self check-in that we talked about last episode. That friend would be like, I'm just saying you did did say so I think that's really good. So Ashley, did you have any more points that you wanted to point out?
I guess I'll just say, to close it out, if you feel like any of these things kind of hit close to home and you've experienced these things and you don't necessarily know why, reach out to someone, talk to someone about it. You're not alone. This is something that a lot of people experience, and it's not uncommon, but it's not okay to leave alone. And so get someone to help you. Get someone to help you, hold you accountable, whether that's a therapist, a friend that you trust, a parent, someone that you feel like you can confide in, because no one should have to go through relationships feeling anxious, feeling not secure, feeling worried all the time. Those are things that, you know, we want you to work past and get to a place where you feel secure and you feel like you have someone that you belong with and that uplifts you and is a healthy person for you to be with. So that's what I kind of wanted to just...
And it's okay, once you, just to piggyback off what you're saying, it's okay to realize things that you don't want and to have those conversations, even if you are in a relationship and you're wanting to have that sit down and you're really thinking about what you like and don't like. Uncomfortable conversations make the situation comfortable.
Yeah.
So go ahead and have it, and then whatever it may fall, you're going to feel better towards the end. So I definitely wanted to get that across.
And you might be in a relationship that you're both two people who are living a triggered life, but you don't mean to. And one of my favorite things that Dr. John Van Up says is, He wrote the whole curriculum, How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk. And so basically his whole thing is someone who persistently resists change is a jerk. But you,
I like that.
you know, but if you bring up something, if you have that difficult conversation, you're like, hey, these are things that I think we need to change. And that person's like, you know what, I think you're right. I've noticed things. You've noticed things. Let's move forward and be better. Wow, that's an amazing person. You want to be with a person like that. But if the person's like, no, you're crazy. This is working for me. Maybe we found ourselves a jerk. And maybe we don't need to be in a relationship with them. I don't know, you know, it's your life. You get to do whatever you want. But just got to say, if they're not willing to change to make you feel comfortable, they may not be the best person for you.
I like that though, and that's good, because a lot of people needed to hear that. I'm sure somebody needed to hear that. But if that's all we have, remember, we are now offering free classes in Florida through our Healthy Marriage Initiative grant. If you are interested, check out livethelife.org/aim. If you are military and you are interested in learning more about this program, you can reach out to us by emailing ashley@livethelife.org. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you feel educated, encouraged, and empowered to thrive in whatever relationship you're in.